Hey, Slater Crusaders. I read an article the other day about a person who's having trouble getting pregnant. And she said, my wife and I both have uteruses, and sperm costs too much. And despite Seattle's progressive reputation, this white haven also feels hostile to me as a black, queer, non-binary person partnered with a black, queer, femme immigrant. This is our world now. About once a year, a local news story has an article about a pregnant man, about a dad giving birth. But it's not a man giving birth, it's a woman pretending to be a man who gives birth. My favorite closeout in a local news story of all time is, one day he was a pregnant man, the next, just regular old dad. What is going on? I want to share this story here in case you thought this whole transgender obsession was a fluke or a fad and would just go away like it never happened. No. Two bills in California we got to talk about. First, AB 2934. This is the most shockingly, obviously, blatantly unconstitutional bill I've literally ever seen. I wouldn't even mention it if it was just proposed because I thought no way would anyone actually vote for this. But it's passed through two committees in California and the state assembly so far. This thing's probably going to pass. It would make it illegal for any counselor to say anything to try and I quote, eliminate or reduce sexual or romantic attractions or feelings towards individuals of the same sex. So, married woman goes to see a counselor and says, oh, I feel this same-sex attraction towards another woman. The counselor, it would be illegal for them to say, okay, let's work through this so that you can stay married to your husband and keep your family intact. That would be illegal. Another part of this bill, a religious ministry cannot have a conference where a speaker talks about avoiding homosexual behavior. So next month, I'm giving two speeches at churches and men's retreats. I don't have anything in there about homosexuality, but if I said anything about fighting unwanted same-sex attraction, then I would be breaking the law. I'm not exaggerating. And there's a third part of the bill, it's even worse. You wouldn't even be allowed to sell any books that challenge gender identity ideology and advocate against transgenderism or homosexuality. Come on, how can this be? The exact language is that any books that seek to change an individual's sexual orientation would be banned from being sold in the state. Come on. Here's another bill, AB 2110. This is says that foster care kids, this is the person who proposed it, foster care kids struggling with transgender feelings must have access to gender-affirming counseling, puberty-blocking drugs, and sex change operations. Foster kids must have access to puberty-blocking drugs. So a boy thinks he's a girl, wants puberty-blocking drugs. The state must provide this kid with puberty-blocking drugs to prevent puberty. And the idea is then that it's easier to perform surgery on this kid when he's older. We talked about both these bills on my local radio show in San Diego, and someone said, Slater, what can we do? Who can we talk to? Who do we call to try and stop this? And I said, well, the assemblyman who wrote the law is one of our San Diego reps. He's gay, and the co-sponsor in the Senate, the state Senate, ran an abortion clinic before she was senator. So good luck changing their minds on this bill. And I've never seen a more blatant violation of your freedom of speech, conscience, and even the press. Just again, it would be illegal for a counselor to help a client overcome same-sex attraction, even if the client wants help overcoming same-sex attraction. The counselor can only help the client act on their desires. Come on. By the way, keep in mind, the whole premise of this law is that homosexuality is you're born this way and you can't change it. And that's not true. Talked about this on my show a few weeks ago. There's a pro-gay advocate who did the longest research study on this, and he found that among people 16 to 22, 1.5% of men said that in the last year they only had sexual attraction to other men. 6 years later, 70% of those men said that they only had sexual attraction to a woman in the last 6 years. So which is it? Are you born that way or is it fluid? And if it is fluid, why are we passing this law that says no counselor could even help someone overcome same-sex attraction and be straight? This law is a disaster. Help me in fighting it. We'll put some information in the comments.